Ladies and gentlemen, President Trump can invoke executive privilege, and I'll explain. Jonathan Turley, a question of privilege, how Trump could still gut the Mueller report. This is the other day, but it is very relevant to what's taking place right now. If Trump asserts executive privilege to all the communications with Mueller that were not also made to Congress, Barr likely will feel duty-bound to defend those assertions. Barr is no Sally Yates, who, as acting Attorney General, refused to defend Trump's first immigration order. It was a highly improper order and warranted her firing by Trump. Barr will defend a properly asserted presidential privilege, and he will comply with any order of a court on the merits of such assertion. So, ladies and gentlemen, what's going to take place is that President Trump will review the Mueller report before Congress. Even though Jerry Nadler has stated numerous times on CNN and other publications that President Trump does not have the right to invoke executive privilege, he does. And right now, the ball's in his court. Ladies and gentlemen, the ball is in his court. He has all the balls in his court. So where does that leave us? Option 1, under federal law, Barr could confine his disclosure to a short summary. He will. I've been saying that forever. This is Jonathan Turley, a really wonderful professor of law, but I'll get into his. I'll explain who Jonathan Turley is in a moment. But thus, if no criminal acts by the president or his campaign were uncovered, Barr could discover the scope of the investigation and give the ultimate findings. After all, members of Congress widely condemned Comey for his public discussion of Hillary Clinton's gross negligent actions after he decided not to charge her. Well, it was the DOJ who should have charged Clinton. She committed crimes. That was one of the reasons Comey was fired. But anyway, Barr could say he will not repeat Comey's grandstanding. But Barr... Okay, option 2, the most likely option, will be to write a summary and attach the redacted report or rewrite the report into a unified report for Barr to Congress that removes statutorily and constitutionally protected information. Barr also could give Congress a sealed version of the report containing classified information. However, he cannot give Congress a report with grand jury information without a court order. More importantly, he cannot disclose privileged information to Congress. The preference would be a redacted copy with blacked out sections to show how much of the original report has been withheld. The only logistical question is whether Barr will issue a summary while the report is being scrubbed, or issue a summary pending the release of such a public report. There is also the question of whether Barr will allow the White House to submit a response with his submission to Congress, an accommodation and possibly delay that would be best to avoid. Well, anyway, I think that Trump should just rewrite his own Mueller report. The second option is more likely for Barr, but much depends on Trump. Trump could move to higher ground by declaring that while he still views the investigation as a witch hunt, he would waive all remaining privilege assertions for the purposes of this report so that the public can reach its own conclusions. First of all, Trump doesn't care about the public. Neither do I. Neither should you. The public opinion will always be influenced by what the media espouses. So if the media is pro-Clinton, which is interesting because you still have half of Americans who view the Mueller report as a witch hunt, which means that despite the overwhelming push and propaganda spin by Democrats, MSNBC, CNN, The Washington Post, The New York Times, subsidiary channels, channels on YouTube associated with, who take their marching orders from CNN. Despite all of that, President Trump is still marching to the beat of his own drummer. Is still, I guess, a poll, a USA Today poll recently found that over half of Americans side with Trump and view the Mueller probe to be a witch hunt. Let me ask you a question. If you're watching this right now, you're saying, "Hey, Che, oh my goodness, you're awesome." How many people in American political life could withstand a concerted effort, collusion by virtually all of media, late night Hollywood, a great many pundits on YouTube? How many people could withstand an almost singular assault upon a presidency? Only Trump. Really, only Trump. That's one of the reasons I like Trump. He's not a saint, but he's pretty awesome. Peace between North and South Korea, bringing home Americans from counterinsurgency wars. And if you say, "Well, he's not bringing home Americans," blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah. Who's stopping him from bringing home Americans to their families, to their sons, their daughters, their families, their wives, their husbands? Who's stopping? Democrats and media and people like Bernie Sanders who think, "Well, I think it should be an orderly withdrawal." An orderly withdrawal? Really? Trump should have already brought home 10,000 Americans to their families, their sons, their daughters. And guess why? It hasn't happened earlier than expected because of Democrats. The militant snowflakes, I call them. But anyway, the second option is more likely for Barr, but much depends on Trump. Trump could move to higher ground. So this is interesting. The second option, this is Jonathan Turley. Jonathan Turley is a Shapiro Professor of Public Interest Law at George Washington University. You can follow him on Twitter. Let's see Okay, the second option is more likely to Barr, but much depends on Trump. Trump could move to higher ground by declaring that while he still views the investigation as a witch hunt, he would waive all remaining privilege assertions for the purposes of this report so that the public can reach his own conclusions. Who cares about what the public thinks? Please tell me. I only care what the public associated with Trump voters and independents. Democrats can take a hike, as far as I'm concerned. The Democratic Party promotes groupthink, a very dangerous view of American politics. I have very, very intelligent, wonderful, accomplished, successful friends who read the New York Times religiously. And I say to them, "Why are you doing that?" "Oh, well, it's the New York Times." And I say, "Well, you should probably realize that pretty much everything it's said has been wrong for the past, 5 years? It's 2019. 2015, it said that Trump couldn't win, and Hillary was the only option you had, and Trump would lead to catastrophe economically, foreign policy. He's presiding over peace between North and South Korea. The beginning of. He's trying to withdraw American soldiers from theaters of conflict that are never ending. Listen, this is what drives H.A. Goodman. And I've written about counterinsurgency wars in The Hill. Just type in H.A. Goodman, counterinsurgency, The Hill. and you'll see my articles. I want Americans home from never-ending conflict. I do. I want Americans home from I want them back to their families. Every American soldier in any theater of war, in any theater of conflict, I want back home with their families, with their loved ones, with their sons, with their daughters, with their families, with their wives, their husbands. That's the difference between me and pundits on the left. Pundits on the left have an aversion to saying Americans must be home. They can't say that. It's against their religion, their political religion, their philosophical viewpoint. It's against that. They can't say it. They can't say it, and they've never said it. I've never heard that from anyone. I've never heard the words American soldiers should be back home with their families, with their loved ones, with their wives, their husbands, their sons, their daughters for Christmas and for New Year's. I've never heard that from anyone on the left. What I've heard from many people on the left, is pontificating and preaching about the soldiers of other countries as opposed to the United States of America, which is fine if that's their thing, fine. But I think that the United States of America should have a truly anti-war party or an anti-conflict movement. It shouldn't be hands off this country, hands off that country. Yeah, well, where was the hands off Libya when Obama was about to destroy it? If you really have that vantage point, then push for American soldiers to be back home with their families. Go ahead and do that. Otherwise, you're just a fake and a phony. That's pretty much what you are if you're a pundit. But Trump is going to invoke executive privilege. He's going to, well, first of all, William Barr is going to summarize, which is hilarious. Okay, the Mueller probe is already written. You have 3 prosecutors who have already left the Mueller probe. The Mueller probe is already written, ladies and gentlemen. What do you think? They're going to write, oh, we have about a couple of hours left before class. Oh my gosh, I'm Robert Mueller. Oh, and I'm gonna write the Mueller probe now. Oh, President Trump, gosh, he bought the Facebook ads, and he bought the Twitter bots, and he worked it with the Putin, and poor Hillary lost. Poor Hillary lost. He doesn't care. You think he's going to do that? You think Mueller's going to do that? You think Trump is going to care about that? No. Mueller is going to do what he can to hurt Trump, which is not much, because there's no evidence Trump did anything. The whole thing is stupid. The whole thing is perpetuated by stupid people. The whole thing is perpetuated by people who want to hurt Trump. That's all they want to do. That's their life goal, is to hurt Trump. It's not about anything else. You think they care about the United States of America? You think they care about the future of this country? They do not care about that at all. They care only about hurting Trump. That's it. That's the air they breathe, is to hurt Trump. They care about hurting Trump more than they care about their families, some of these people. That's what you're working with. And they're going to fail like they failed in 2016 because they're losers. They're a bunch of losers. Losers. They lost in 2016, and they were in the Jacob Javits Center crying. Woo-hoo-hoo. And it was the Young Turks, and there was a fantastic, segment on YouTube that you can watch over and over and over and over again. And it was all these pundits on CNN looking at the election map and saying, "Oh my God, if he wins this, he's won the election." Yeah, well, in 2015, yours truly said that Clinton would win. 2015, if it was Clinton versus Trump, she's running again. Just to let you know, she's going to lose again, but it's going to be a money-making endeavor. So Trump can invoke executive privilege to simply slash, delete, redact. I guess tell people at 15:45, old HA finally gets to the point. I know. I need to tighten things up. But he's going to slash and redact and delete, and Congress is not going to get what they think they're going to get. He's going to invoke executive privilege and say, "Look, you know what? You're not going to get this." And Jonathan Turley has stated he has every right to do so. The courts are going to back him up. Because at the end of the day, if the president hasn't done anything wrong, he has nothing to tell the Congress or the American public about. If he did something wrong, if he did work with Facebook ads and get bodily fluids poured upon him, that would be bad. But he didn't. So, them's the breaks. Sorry, you paid for a Steele dossier that was complete nonsense. What can you do? Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now. Share this segment everywhere right now. My Patreon is below. Check out HA2A and check out my writing below on The Federalist, The Jerusalem Post, and The Daily Caller. Thank you so